Look, I'm already standing here. Didn't even have to do a walk-on this time. Ancient aliens is the exact way that I opened the last part of this video. There is no piece of pseudo-archaeology content that has permeated deeper into the pop culture consciousness than ancient aliens. Most of us are here, I would imagine, because we know about it in some way. Whether you've actually sat down to watch it or are just familiar with it from the references, we all know about it somehow. I saw Ancient Aliens, like many of us, when I was a kid, and I think it was the equivalent to someone vigorously shaking me. But thankfully, it knocked a few synapses into place that made me really interested in archaeology and, critical thinking, and was one of many sort of foundational stones that led me to wherever the hell it is that I am now. I've always wanted to talk about Ancient Aliens on this channel for all of those reasons, and I had a video in the works to actually talk about it. And then I got a text from one of my buddies a few weeks back that said, Eric von Däniken died. And I was like, well, god damn it, how the hell am I supposed to do a video on this now without seeming like I'm dancing on his grave? For those of you that don't know, Eric von Däniken is the author of Chariots of the Gods and many other books, which are the text foundation of the TV show Ancient Aliens. And his loss, honestly, it cut me a little deep. Like I said, his show, in a weird way, is an inspiration to me growing up. And so I thought to myself, and I was like, you know what? This is actually all the more reason to do an episode on Ancient Aliens. Because when my time here is said and done, the last thing I would want is for people to just stop talking about me. So I decided that we could come together and watch an episode of Ancient Aliens in honor of the late, great Eric von Däniken. Again, it is meant all with the utmost respect as someone that I genuinely view as kind of like a yin to my yang. One cannot exist without the other, and as much as I disagree with his theories, I do genuinely grieve the fact that he is no longer with us. I also know that I'm far from the first person to have this idea. When I was looking for the worst episode of Ancient Aliens, I came across a video that Gabby Bell did that was pretty much the exact same idea. So, sorry, Gabby, I'm stealing your idea. I did watch a different episode, though. I'm not that much of an asshole. Lord knows that wasn't too challenging. There's about 8 million episodes of Ancient Aliens. Watching Ancient Aliens drained the soul from both of us, I'd imagine. But we chatted about it briefly, and maybe next time we'll do a collab for it. I think it's the only way that I'd be able to stomach this again. So, smash like for the collab of the century. Anyway, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to welcome you in honor of the late, great Eric von Däniken to this episode of trying to watch Ancient Aliens desperately.
We take a look back through the Ancient Aliens archives to the show's very origins to examine the evidence that we are not alone. We have never been alone.
What we're showing you we do at great risk.
We are so back. We are so back. All right, so like we were doing last time, we're gonna continue our little Ancient Aliens drinking game that we have here. If you are of legal age and sound mind to do so, you're welcome to participate with me, and if you are neither, feel free to grab a glass of water or orange juice and play along that way. Let's get a little reminder of what our rules were last time. I've made a slight modification. So last time I had the phrase, and if so, be one of the rules for the drinking game, but I took that out because either it never happened or I missed every time it did, so it's not worth keeping in there. And I added in a new rule, drink every time they say looks like. I don't know how I didn't think of that one the last time, but I'm sure that that will make things so much more painful. So a recap is our current rules are drink every time they say ancient astronaut theorists believe, every time Giorgio Tsoukalos, the crazy alien hair guy, is on screen, every time they say mainstream history, mainstream archaeology, or something of the like, every time they say looks like, and take a big swig if Eric von Däniken appears, pouring one out for our boy. My drink of choice will once again be a bottle of Paul Revere's urine, the final bottle of my handmade New England heritage cider from one of my buddies. Tastes like you're heading back to the time before fucking they cured polio. Zooey mama. Oh, this is gonna be fun. All right, I'm gonna be kind of honest. I forget where we left off last time. Things started to get a little blurry at that point. I don't think that letting Joe Childless use the fucking pocket square is the proper way of telling how precision these are. I seen how he wields that thing, and I think you should take it away from him. Honestly, it's dangerous. So I'm just gonna pick up from where Apple TV thinks I left off, which would be this part of the guy talking about hinges. I don't think there's anything else to explain here, guys. If you haven't seen the first episode, watch that one. It's all the context you need. It's a guy watching Ancient Aliens and drinking. It does not need any more of an introduction than that. Let's get into it.
In Danville, Illinois, toolmaker Chris Dunn uses measurements taken at Puma Punku to create a 1/8 scale model of an H block.
Okay, that's right. I remember where we were. It was this guy making models of the stones from Puma Punku and speculating about what they were used for. I also think it's rather interesting that they've spent the entire last part of the episode pissing and moaning about how it's not possible to do anything with modern technology. And here they are showing someone mill a piece of aluminum with fucking millimeter accuracy into an absolutely perfect replica of one of these blocks. It speaks for itself.
To better understand how they may have originally fit together.
So you actually went to Puma Punku to measure
George.
the H blocks. What was your conclusion? What did you find?
What I found was that the internal cavities were not parallel
My
to
beer,
each
it's
other.
escaping! Glad I caught that. Wow, we are off to a great start here, guys.
It's the aliens trying to sabotage you.
They're trying to silence me. Big Academia tried to silence me by spilling cider all over my crotch.
These two surfaces right here, both top and bottom, they are smaller at the front than they are at the back,
Essentially suggesting a dovetail.
creating a dovetail, probably to hold hinges for a door. So if we put this together, we put the one in the bottom, like so, one in the top part, like so, and then this piece fits in there, put a hinge pin in it, and there you have your hinge.
Yeah, I mean,
What an insane train of thought. Dunn speculates that this box was once completely filled with peanut butter. To test his theory, Dunn made a replica of the box and filled it with peanut butter, thus proving that that's what the box was used for. It's fucking ridiculous. Oh my God. I love that. I love that. I like the idea that experimental archaeology is just like taking part of a thing that exists and then like just building whatever the hell you want around it in order to prove your point. Where I assumed they were going with this was like, oh, it's a dovetail, so all the blocks fit together. Which honestly is kind of an interesting theory, but they didn't do that. They were just like, this is a dovetail shape, and then just made their own brand new thing out of scratch and fucking showed that it works. Like, no shit, it works, you made it to work.
I mean, it's absolutely spectacular. And of course, the most fascinating question is, what tools were used 5,000 years ago? Because something very sophisticated was used, and not chicken bones.
George, chicken bones? I get you're being facetious. I get it. But I'm gonna be that guy. I'm gonna actually him. Actually, chickens were not introduced to the Americas until the 1300s. Drink.
Copper chisels, not stone chisels. The tools that were used to create these blocks at Puma Punku do not exist in the archaeological record.
They don't exist. Wow. So
It must have been stolen by aliens.
it must have been aliens. So is that true, or are you just bullshitting, Mr. Guy?
The thing that he created is not in the archaeological evidence.
Yeah, so if the thing he just fucking made up isn't in the archaeological evidence, it sounds like it's a really great train of thought. So it was hinges for a giant door, but we don't have any of the hinges or the doors. And how did people open these doors? They look rather heavy. That seems like kind of a stupid thing to do. I don't know why you would need a door made out of multi-ton stones. They were just talking about why did they go through so much work to make stones this big? And then we're like, and obviously the most logical use of these giant stones was to make a enormous fucking heavy door. That's brilliant.
Puma Punku is definitely one of the most mysterious sites on Earth.
Yeah, you know, but there's sites all over the world that still defy explanation. Yeah. I know one of my most favorite sites would have to be Malta. Megalithic structures that
Oh
are some
no,
of the
we're going to
largest on
Malta.
Earth.
If Graham Hancock doesn't make an appearance for the Malta section, I'm gonna have to finish my drink. And if he does make an appearance, I'll still have to finish my drink. I think that was the rule last time.
Scholars believe the first inhabitants migrated here from the nearby island of Sicily in 5200 BC.
The temples on Malta and Gozo are more than 1,000 years older than the pyramids of Egypt. There are engineering features in these temples that are just astonishing. We're talking about walls enclosing space.
That is astonishing. You're fucking kidding me. They got walls enclosing space? One time I built a wall, but it didn't enclose any space. I just built it. I'm not technologically advanced enough to make the wall go all the way around.
Paved walkways, they were sealing, much more complex than anything else that was appearing on Earth for a very long time.
Built before metal tools or the wheel, experts are baffled by the sheer scale of the construction.
Are they, or are you just saying that? Because whenever I hear that, it makes me wonder. It makes me wonder if you're full of shit. I also, again, this is something we're gonna have to look into in post here. Evidence is always changing as to when like tools and technologies were developed and created. Not in the Graham Hancock way of things just keep getting older, but in the sense of it is entirely possible that there was some sort of technology that they had to do this that's completely logical. You know, even if it predates, you know, when the fucking Bronze Age started.
It's only been in recent years that we've developed instruments that are accurate enough to appreciate that some of these ancient societies were able to shape stones to optical accuracy. Optical accuracy. Optical accuracy. Optical accuracy. Optical accuracy greater than what we're able to do today. And so they must have had some kind of advanced technology enabled to do that.
I have a question, if he's taking questions. What the actual fuck is optical accuracy? Is that a real term, or are you just saying shit? I don't know, it said PhD next to his name, so he must know. I have that guy's book. I bought that when I did the Philip Zeba video. He's the guy that wrote Pyramid Power, a book that I still have not been brave enough to read. Philip Zeba Revisited, by the way, coming very soon, I promise. The much awaited conclusion of my, one of the greatest characters to ever grace the channel. Optical accuracy. Very interesting. It would appear that optical accuracy does not mean fucking anything. At least it does not mean anything that has anything to do with this. Surface accuracy. Surface accuracy is the measurement of the deviation between the actual shape and the intended shape of an optical surface. So maybe that has some sort of application here. It seems like they're talking about it in like a light sense, so I have no idea how this works in the physical world, but maybe they're talking about, you know how like the some Greek columns were carved in such a way that they got, was it larger towards the top or smaller? Something to do an optical illusion to make it look more grand or more consistent. They like took the viewing angle into account. I'm being very generous because it doesn't seem like that term actually means anything, and even if it does, I would be willing to put money on the fact that whatever the fuck it means, they could not do it then better than we can do it now with the tools that we have. That is just complete bullshit.
Accuracy greater than what we're able to do today. And so they must have had some kind of advanced technology enabled to do that.
You know what? I'm throwing another house rule in. I think every time they say advanced technology, I feel like that's a good one.
But if the ancient builders of Malta had used advanced technology...
Fuck, he said it again. I should not have added that rule. I think it's really funny, just the train of thought. I need like a flow chart for how Ancient Aliens works. They'll show you a site that is cool and ancient and impressive, and then they'll point out an attribute that they want you to think is impossible, even though it totally is and there's probably an explanation for it, and then they will build the entire episode off of that. Like, we just heard a guy say something about fucking surface optical luminescence or some bullshit, and that doesn't even mean anything, and everything they're saying now is hinged on that didn't mean anything. So nothing they say from this point even applies to fucking reality.
Researchers believe answers may be found among Malta's numerous mysteries, the so-called cart ruts, which can be found all over Malta.
I said it in the last episode, and I'll say it again. Graham Hancock, you do not have a single original bone in your body.
These parallel incisions have been identified as cart ruts because that's what they look like. What they really were, what their purpose...
Fuck, I guess that is a looks like. Drink. I call it a cart rut because it looks like the ruts of a cart.
I call our dog a bear.
Because she looks like a bear.
On account of her looking like a bear. Here's your tail.
Dog ass.
Bear tail.
Bear tail. Tail of a bear.
The cart ruts on Malta are about 4 feet wide. They're uniformly spaced. Some of them run hundreds of yards. Some of them run miles.
Ancient astronaut theorists believe...
Drink.
The cart ruts may be evidence that Malta was one of Earth's earliest industrial work sites.
Oh, man. You know what? Graham Hancock, I take it back. I take it back. You might piss and moan about the Malta cart ruts, but at least all he's saying is, you know, it's his lost advanced civilization of the Ice Age.
It seems like what these cart ruts really were was some...
This seems like count as looks like. I'm gonna say yes.
Some kind of ancient railway.
Okay, the whole thing about a railway is that it has rails that are elevated in order for something to move across it. Those are not rails, they are fucking ruts. They're holes in the ground. How the fuck would that work faster?
Even the way rockets are rolled out onto a launch pad.
Further evidence of the use of advanced technology on Malta can be found underground.
Wait, did they say other evidence? They haven't given us any evidence yet. They just said there's ruts and it looks like a railway. They didn't explain how it would work, how it was made, any evidence that it was a railway. They were just like, there's ruts here. And it's probably because it was what they used to move the fucking space shuttle. That's another one they do. They didn't say that it was used to move the space shuttle, but they threw some footage of the space shuttle in there just to kind of keep your brain thinking about the really impressive stuff we've done today. It's like subliminal messaging.
A mysterious underground sanctuary dating to 2500 BC was revealed to be 3 levels deep, hewn from solid stone.
It's been estimated that they removed more than 2,000 tons of stone to create a space beautifully replicates the temples above ground.
That's excellent. That's excellent. Good for them. I wish that this was now going into them talking about how it's really impressive that so many people came together to create a project like this, but we know that's not where this is going.
Perhaps one of the greatest mysteries involve the acoustical properties in what is called the Oracle Room.
The acoustic properties within this are absolutely extraordinary. The way that their voice is carried is heard within the whole of the complex.
The ancients were using this profound sound technology in order to put themselves into a deep state of trance in order to access higher human consciousness.
Okay. How the fuck do you know that? Was that what an amphitheater was for? That was also designed in such a way that the sound would travel. It was pretty intelligent, but not fucking rocket science. They weren't using that to enter a fucking trance state.
They wanted to go deep within in order to connect themselves with star energy.
I would know. I'm 5,000 years old. Did he say star energy? I'm sorry, I glossed right over that.
They wanted to go deep within in order to connect themselves with star energy.
I have another question. What the fuck is star energy? What the fuck is star energy? How do you know that's what they were trying to access? It's really amazing that you can just say things sometimes. It's shocking. Truly, if any of you ever feel a sense of imposter syndrome, just remember that these guys are doing this with full confidence. So whatever you're doing, I promise, you are more than qualified.
Might the Oracle Room have been used to communicate with ancient gods?
Might this chamber that they dug underground, notoriously a challenging place to access the sky, be the place that they used to communicate with the aliens that were here? Probably not, no.
Or perhaps celestial ancestors? Or do its advanced acoustics
Damn, she thick as fuck. Wow, freaky Malta.
suggest that early Maltese people had mastered the science of sonic manipulation?
Nobody's gonna be manipulating sonic on my watch. That's fucked up.
That they're using something called fractal
non-linear resonance.
All right, listen, I love you, dude. I like your book. I've been staring at the cover of it for 2 years. But I hate to say it, the only time I've ever heard you speak was about 5 minutes ago, and it was you saying something that's complete bullshit. So when I hear you say fractal nonlinear resonance, I hate to say it, I feel like you're talking out your ass.
We're now discovering that nonlinear resonances of sound waves, microwaves, magnetic waves, we are able to change matter.
Dude, what the fuck? Fractal nonlinear resonance. Okay, maybe this is a real thing. Is he using it the right way? Okay, nonlinear resonance is a thing. It sounds like they just tacked the word fractal onto a thing that already sounds confusing so that really high people watching Ancient Aliens will believe it. In physics, nonlinear resonance is the occurrence of resonance in a nonlinear system. Fucking awesome. That's really helpful. You know what? Yeah, Professor Dave explains. I'm gonna leave that one to you. I don't know what that is. I don't fucking know, but I'm gonna hazard a guess the people on Malta hadn't mastered that shit yet.
If the Oracle Room was used to harness the power of audio waves.
You know what? Actually, I'm taking it back. Earlier I said that I was taking out the drink every time they say And if so, but I think I'm gonna leave that in because that's kind of what I was trying to say earlier about like, they'll just show something impressive, make up some bullshit, and then treat it as though it were true and use aliens to explain it. And that's where the if so comes in. So I'm gonna say that's an if so, and I'm gonna drink.
As many ancient astronaut theorists believe.
Oh God, double.
Is it possible?
He said it, he said both. He said ancient astronaut theorists as well.
The builders had this advanced knowledge of sonic technology. And in fact,
advanced knowledge of sonic.
That pause was way too long.
Advanced knowledge of
The alien is Sonic.
Sonic. Wow,
Oh my
dude.
God, they've been trying to tell us
It's all coming
along.
together. It's all coming together. Someone write a fanfic about this.
All around the world, myths and legends, they talk about the movement of stones through the use of sound. Instruments or the banging, the ringing that will elevate stones enough so that they can be pushed.
Sick graphic, bro. That was awesome.
If they've become completely weightless.
Dude, that doesn't fucking prove anything. Like, anthropologists do look at oral histories because it can have very important information. But when you're just taking it at 100% face value, you are being, like, that's no better than being, like, a biblical literalist. It's not scientific to do it like that. It is cult-like behavior.
It's very possible that what we're seeing at Malta is some type of sound levitation technology. And if that's true, there's many other sites that may have been built in a similar fashion.
Then one place comes to mind, and that's Nan Madol.
Graham Hancock, you don't have an original bone in your body. It's all the same script, guys. I can't help but point out the fact that they still haven't proven anything about acoustic levitation. The most evidence they actually gave was something about there being a story about it. And that's literally it.
Yeah, I remember when we first featured it on the show, and the locals actually said that those giant basalt columns were actually floated through the air.
I need like a term for this. It's toxic reverence. It's not just being reverent of an indigenous people and listening to their stories. It's taking their stories at 100% literal value and then using it to support your theory that has nothing really to do with their stories because you can make it work. While many groups did hand down their stories over time, it's worth noting two things. One, we live in a post-colonial world where many groups have had their cultures ripped from them. It does not take very long to lose the memory of something if you have it fucking beaten out of you. And two, once a memory is lost, new stories will arise to explain these things. A good example of that would be the mounds in North America. By the time colonization was happening, the mound building cultures had more or less disappeared. And the modern indigenous people were obviously the descendants of those groups. Some of them had oral memories of their ancestors building them, others of them had legends about how they were built, and many of them had these stories largely embellished to be something grandiose, as is the way oral history works. So taking their modern story that has been handed down so many generations and interpreting it as 100% literal to support ancient aliens theory is almost disrespectful to the ancestors of these people, even though you are technically listening to their stories.
More than 2,500 miles southwest of Hawaii, completely isolated in the Pacific Ocean. This Micronesian landmass is home to just 34,000 people, mainly farmers and fishermen. But there is one area of the island that is completely uninhabited, the lost city of Nan Madol. The native islanders believe this ancient site is cursed. And it is also home to some of the most mysterious archaeological ruins in the world.
But how is that any different than what y'all are doing? You're like, the natives believe this place to be cursed. Like, dude, you're looking at this place and also attributing it to supernatural forces.
Most archaeologists agree that construction of these artificial islands began sometime in the 13th century. Each has been formed with columnar basalt, a black rock that forms when basaltic lava from a volcano cools in the form of columns.
I'm half surprised they didn't say that they're remains of ancient trees. They're smarter than most fucking TikTok conspiracy theorists.
There are a number of columnar basalt outflows across Pohnpei itself. And we know of several of these outcrops that were used to mine the basalt.
But how did the native people living here 800 years ago manage to build 92 islets out of giant basalt columns?
Dude, why, like the way you phrase that, how did the native people living here 800 years ago manage to do this? Bro, this was only 800 years ago. That's not that fucking long ago, and the people you are talking about literally reached this island on fucking outrigger canoes. This was an established culture and civilization. Just because it's remote today doesn't mean they were like, you know, fucking like primates out there trying to like, you know, figure out how to knock fucking rocks together. This was only 800 years ago. What the fuck are you talking about? This was during like, where the Crusades and shit were happening when this was built. That isn't that hard to believe.
Researchers estimate that each stone log used to construct the megalithic structures weighs between 5 to 50 tons, stacked to form walls as high as 25 feet tall and 17 feet thick. Archaeologists believe that it was an undertaking that most likely would have required all 25,000 island inhabitants to complete.
Okay, there you go. Congratulations, guys, you solved it. Archaeologists say that it probably would have taken pretty much everyone working on this. Okay, then there you go. Everyone fucking worked on it. What did I say in the last episode about fucking teamwork? You are building the capital of your empire together as a community to build something that will withstand the test of time. Here it is, 800 years later. Archaeologists said that it would be possible for that amount of people to do it. They literally just said it themselves. I don't know what the fucking problem is here.
Around the ruins of Nan Madol are many canals, which researchers and archaeologists say were the routes.
Researchers and archaeologists say, I'll count it.
It's taken by boats to move these basalt columns across and around the island to construct the huge megalithic site.
Mainstream scholars insist.
Fuck. Mainstream scholars.
Native people built Nan Madol using ropes, rollers, and rafts. But attempts to prove this theory have failed.
Give us a little more. Tell us about some of these attempts. What failed about them? Are you serious, or is that complete bullshit?
But could there be another explanation for how these ancient people were able to move such massive rocks miles across the island and into place in the ocean without the help of modern machinery?
Yes, their hands, ancient machinery.
According to local legends, the ancient builders used a much more profound method of construction, an advanced anti-gravitational technology.
I'm gonna say it again. You are literally doing the exact same thing. The exact same thing. This is just like human superstition, but it gets to be on a TV. These guys just have a fucking microphone and access to fucking Premiere Pro. Jesus Christ.
That ancient astronaut theorists believe may
drink!
Explain many of the world's mysterious megalithic sites.
Stonehenge.
Some legends state that the stones were actually flown from one part of the island to another.
Bro, I don't give a fuck what the legends think. Why don't you analyze them with like an ounce of fucking critical thinking? What else do the legends say? What else do they say? Because I would imagine they say more than just like, yeah, the aliens showed up and flied them over there. Flied them? Floyd them.
This is very reminiscent of what researchers call auditive levitation, which was a technique of raising heavy stones by matching the sound frequency of matter.
I don't think that means anything. That is just a fucking word salad. Auditive levitation. Let's do a little Google search here. Let's Google debunk, shall we? Acoustic levitation is a method of suspending small objects in midair using powerful, high-frequency sound waves, typically ultrasonic, to create standing waves with pressure nodes that counteract gravity. The examples given is somebody lifting what appears to be grains of salt. A styrofoam ball. What do you think about that? You think you could scale that up to move the things at Nan Madol, moving small styrofoam pellets? I want to emphasize a couple words here for you. Small objects using powerful, high-frequency sound waves. If we use our imagination here and try and scale that up to moving large objects like a fucking 10-ton columnar basalt, I would imagine the sound waves required for that would probably shred flesh from bone. It would turn you into a pile of fucking cherry jello. How the fuck is that more believable than people using like fucking ropes and standing up there and lifting that goddamn thing into place with like 100 people? Come on. I need to hear him say that again. That was just such a great fucking word salad sentence. Do that again. Dance for me, funny man.
This is very reminiscent of what researchers call auditive levitation, which was a technique of raising heavy stones by matching the sound frequency of matter.
That does not mean fucking anything. That's like when people say toxins. They never actually mean fucking toxins because they have no idea what toxins means. Toxin is just an amorphous thing that is bad for you. The frequency of matter is just a thing that you can't see, and so they can attribute whatever the fuck they want to it because it's a frequency and you can't see it, so you just have to trust it's there.
The people themselves who still to this day live there in Pompeii say that this place was not built by us. It's been here before we arrived.
Yeah, I'd imagine, unless one of them is 800 years old, I would hazard a guess it's been there since long before they were there.
Henry, do you think you can calculate the weight of this?
Yeah, we can certainly estimate it. I have a measuring tape. We can estimate the volume.
Did George get like airdropped in here or something? Everyone else is sweating absolute sack, and George is just absolutely radiant. I mean, nothing surprising here, I guess, but still shocking to see when everyone around him looks like they just fucking fought, you know, through fucking Verdun.
You're looking at a weight of about 54 tons.
54 tons,
yeah. So 50 tons, give or take.
And you have 1, 2, 3, 4 of those monoliths essentially stacked on top of each other at a height of 40 feet.
So, Gus, what is then the oral history of moving this stone on the island?
Well, according to the legends, the stones were flown up here.
Oh, wow. All right, what's the history? Come on, tell us. Say the thing about the stones being flown up here.
For generations, the people of Pompeii have told the story that Nan Madol was constructed by strange visitors through a process of levitation. It is this legend that has suggested to ancient astronaut theorists that Nan Madol is not only
suggested to ancient astronaut theorists. I'm gonna take the last swig of my Henry Dawes dip juice bottle. Henry Dawes, the guy that was late to the midnight ride because he was with his mistress. No, that wasn't Henry Dawes. That was, no, was it William Dawes? Jesus Christ. You fucking live next to Lexington your entire life and you don't even know the names of the people in the fucking midnight ride. God damn it. Your name's Mini Minute Man, for Christ's sake. I'm gonna get another drink because I am out. Oh, we're in here again. How cold. In the last video, I made a little bit of an announcement, and I want to make that announcement again for anyone that for some reason didn't see the first part or has short-term memory loss. I have one thing to say to you. Atlantis. I see and hear you guys asking about it constantly, and I don't blame you, okay? I dug my grave, I'm gonna lie in it. Now I know it's taking literally years, but at long last, I am this close to actually having an update on what the hell is happening with Atlantis. I'm still figuring it out because I don't want to make more promises I can't keep, but I will give this information in the annual Uncut Vermont podcast, which is our April Fool's video. So stay tuned, April 1st. There's gonna be Atlantis. There's gonna be me, there's gonna be you, there's gonna be Atlantis. Go watch the other episodes of the Uncut Vermont podcast if you haven't. It's the dumbest shit you'll ever see. You're gonna wanna be prepared for it. Don't go in blind. And in honor of how much I have been missing awful archaeology since digging myself this grave, I thought that it would be fun to do a little homage to the many episodes that have come and gone. Awful archaeology poster, baby. You guys know that I love my old antique maps and atlases and things like that, so we decided to do a cool informational graphic poster from like, you know, 50s classroom kind of thing. This poster contains every discovery talked about in awful archaeology so far, hand illustrated by my wonderful partner Zaboski, with a little blurb written by yours truly. We also have some stickers with each one of the discoveries on it. I already took some off of this. We got the Dendera light on there. with that one. Everyone wants to see it again. Yep, there we go. And the crowd goes wild. And then we got this, the Oldaway man up there. Woo! As a little reminder, I don't do any sponsorships on this channel, which is dumb of me because an account of this size could be absolutely raking it in if I shelled out for every fucking, you know, corporation that emailed me. But I don't do that because I could never live with myself if I shelled out to sell you guys a fucking VPN or something. But I know we all gotta make our bag and I gotta put fuel on the fire, so I've made the commitment to try and do that by putting nice things out into the world. Proceeds from all of the merch go to helping run the channel, pay the team, and a cut even goes to the artist who created them. And hopefully you get something beautiful that doesn't look like just some, you know, generic YouTuber merch that you can proudly decorate your home with, and know that you are part of the reason that we are able to continue doing what we do here. If you're interested in checking out the Awful Archaeology poster or stickers, links to that is in the description of this video, miniminutman.com. You can go click it now. You can open it in another tab so you don't forget for later. And remember, Atlantis, April 1st, you can remember it. AA, Atlantis, April 1st. Alcoholics Anonymous, Ancient Aliens, Awful Archaeology, Ancient Apocalypse. There's a lot of AAs in my life, isn't there? Anyway, let's get back to the drinking. Thanks again for all purchases. We love you guys. Mwah! How about a twee? Can you twee it up? And before we get back into it, everyone, water break. Drink water. I'm gonna bring your little body over here to me. Yes, perfect, excellent. She's a fucking weird little Muppet. A Muppet, a dog named Muppet. Mimi. All right, back to it.
A story about two brothers, Olusopa and Olusiba. They managed to construct what you know today as Nan Madol. According to oral histories, the stones flew to the Nan Madol area. How did they fly there? We don't know.
The two brothers who started Nan Madol, according to Phnom Penh legend, were foreigners. They were not from here, so we don't know where they were from.
According to legend, the twin sorcerers who created Nan Madol.
You can't pull a fast one on me like that. Did you fucking hear that shit? It makes perfect sense that the thing that survived in this story is the two brothers coming from a far-off land and building Nan Madol. It makes perfect sense as well that the exact technicalities of how they built Nan Madol did not survive, because while that's very interesting to us now, that was probably not very interesting back then. Do you think Romulus and Remus were fucking, you know, actually nursed by a wolf? Probably not. Romulus and Remus are probably an embellished story of something that may have been real at one time. It's probably similar with this. This was also fucking in the South Pacific. So of course they came from somewhere else. They were Pacific Islanders. They sailed there. Did you think people just randomly fucking like dropped in like out of the goddamn fucking battle bus into different parts of the world? Jesus.
Were of giant proportions. Much like the
oh my god, they were giants too.
Giants from Lovelock
They were the
Cave.
Giants of Lovelock Cave. Giants of Lovelock Cave available now on the Mini Minuteman channel on YouTube.
Similar stories involving levitation are associated with numerous other megalithic sites, like Stonehenge in England, the Great Pyramid in Giza, Egypt, the Uxmal Pyramid in the Yucatan Peninsula, and Puma Punku in Bolivia.
I'm sorry, what's the connection with any of those things?
Looks like.
Looks like. Drink.
There are other stories around the world that say the exact same thing, how gigantic stones were moved into place as if by magic. And you have to ask yourself, is there a connection?
No, that's just the thing that everyone does. It is just a natural progression that when you have forgotten the exact process to do something, you are going to attribute it to more and more outlandish fucking explanations. You are literally doing it right now.
We've done scientific studies, and 40% of the rocks that comprise this site here came from the north. So it does kind of collaborate our oral legend that it came from the north. The other 60%...
they don't know, I think they don't know where it came from. But it's not from here, right?
Excuse me, indigenous man, shut up. They don't know where it came from, right? It came from somewhere else. That's what I think.
Nobody's been able to source that.
So yeah, 60% of the stones, they don't know where they came from.
That's incredible. That the 60% is essentially still a mystery, yes?
But not that big of a fucking mystery, dog. Like, almost half of them came from a specific place on the north side of the island. odds are the other fucking almost half just came from other parts of the island. Like, it is the god of the gaps. They will just find, like, they were literally asking him a line of questions to figure out the thing that we're not really sure about, and that's where aliens live. You know, those stones were floated here from fucking Ireland, I don't know.
But recently, a growing number of scientists have become convinced that it came from a volcanic outcropping located 25 miles northeast of Nan Madol, called Malta. The unusual formation extends over 400 feet into the air, and incredibly, the rock used to construct Nan Madol appears to have been extracted from the least accessible part of the mountain, the very top. But how? According to the oral history of Pompeii, the basalt was taken by what the natives referred to as a giant bird.
There's one story that says that at some point there were these giant roosters that lived on top of that mountain, and this rooster took these basalt blocks and flew them over to Nan Madol.
Oh, whoa. Damn, that graphic is awesome. Holy shit, I'm glad I'm not tripping for that, or that would have freaked me the fuck out. Holy hell.
We do not condone or encourage the use of illicit substances. Nothing presented here should be interpreted as advice, instruction, or endorsement. We support safe, lawful behavior and strongly recommend keeping all adventures within the boundaries of common sense and the law. While curiosity is a natural human trait, our content is intended
Now, monster roosters do not exist, so my mind always goes to...
Monster roosters? That's just like out of the question. That's ridiculous. Why would you? This is a stupid thing to say. Aliens? That makes sense. That makes sense. Wow. Okay. I honestly am not going to give too much into this. This one can be a little editor pop-up. Is there actual evidence they took this from the top of the mountain? Is it actually from this mountain? I don't know. One way or another, even if it did come from the top, that doesn't mean that it was fucking aliens, okay? God.
Man, look at this. Wow. What a quarry. So how does one free the basalt from this wall?
Yeah, no, it would certainly require some specialized tools, some type of excavator, some type of drill tip. And once you start taking rocks off, depending on how much room you have to drive things up, depending on the size of the blocks, you might need a crane to sort of move things around.
Dude, stop using all these words about modern fucking things. You might need an excavator or a crane. Like, yeah, bro, that's what we'd use now. But you wouldn't have had that back then, so they didn't fucking use a crane. But when you say crane, you're painting an image in people's head. It's like the weird subliminal messaging shit was showing the fucking rocket earlier.
How did people from at least 1,000 years ago remove these blocks from this quarry?
They had to somehow pry these columns out of the cliff and, you know, remove them so that they would be, yeah, a standalone piece of prismatic basalt, and then move it, millions of tons of it. I would think that, yeah, there was very much a special survey done of this island, looking for material.
Honestly, taking the columnar basalt out of the fucking wall is the least unbelievable part of this entire thing to me. I don't know why they're harping on this. We're gonna do what we did last time. Imagine you were tasked with getting one of these columns out intact. What I would do with the massive labor force I have is I'd get up there with a bunch of buddies and I'd be like, all right, guys, what we're gonna do, we're gonna get some fucking, you know, I don't know, sticks and rocks and shit, and we're gonna start jamming them into the crack here, and we're gonna start prying this thing out. Then I'm gonna send fucking 50 guys off into the woods, and I'm gonna be like, I want all of you to come back with armfuls of grass and pile the grass on the ground here. And they get a pile of grass that is as big as this fucking basalt is. It's absolutely massive. Me and my buddies, we're prying away on this fucking thing. Boom, it comes out, it falls, it compresses that grass a lot, but that breaks the fall enough that this thing is now on the ground and not broken. They're not just prying this thing out and letting it hit the ground and shatter, but there's pretty logical ways that you could, with a lot of people, acquire the resources to bring this thing off the wall without it breaking into a million fucking pieces.
That could be used to build.
Right.
And I would say that an aerial survey would accomplish all of that.
Yes, or any...
An aerial survey. Dude, they lived on the island. They could just walk the fuck around and be like, yeah, that place over there has all those big fucking rock sticks. We could just take them down. Nah, it could only be done if you had a fucking Cessna.
Type of, advanced radar technology that, in my opinion, existed with the extraterrestrials.
Okay, I feel like I have to add another rule. Every time one of them says something like, in my opinion, or I believe, where they just like, build this whole line of reasoning and just end it with like, and that's just because I think so. Drink.
And the ancients tell us that there's a much older structure under Nan Madol. And you can see that there's still underwater columns at that location.
Right.
Are we gonna show them? No, you're gonna just have to take our word for it. The natives say it, and there's some columns there that prove it. So just fucking trust us on this one, guys.
Over the world where the ancients were building impressive sites on even more ancient, even more impressive sites.
Here, at this archaeological site, stand the ruins of Heliopolis, built in the 4th century BC by Alexander the Great to honor Zeus. But beneath the Corinthian columns and remnants of both Greek and Roman architecture lie the ruins of a site that is much, much older. According to archaeologists, it dates back nearly 9,000 years.
Okay, according to archaeologists isn't really the same implications as mainstream archaeology believes, but you know what? I got my twee, I'm gonna drink for it anyway.
The ancient city of Baalbek, named after the early Canaanite deity Baal.
Baal is the god of life, the god of the sky, the god of the sun. He was the god that was venerated on the site of Baalbek during the Canaanite and the Phoenician times.
Archaeological surveys have revealed that the enormous stone foundation that lies at the base of the site dates back tens of thousands of years.
Like it was placed there tens of thousands of years ago, or the stone is tens of thousands of years old? Because tens of thousands, if it was placed there tens of thousands of years ago, you are 100% full of shit.
The colossal stone platform may once have served as a landing pad for space travelers.
We don't know why Baalbek was chosen as this specific site. It may well be some kind of special power place.
If UFOs were able to travel all the way to our planet, and they are implying that they had some form of levitation technology, which they do all the time, why the fuck would they need a landing place? Because I would be willing to put money on the fact that levitation technology would happen on their fucking ships. They probably wouldn't even need to touch the fucking ground. Hello, Schminky. Goodbye, Schminky.
But what was originally there before the Roman temple was this spaceport platform that was apparently used for extraterrestrials coming and going.
That's apparently what it was used for, guys. You know, normally when someone says apparently, it means that there's some evidence for it, but in this case, no, it's because this fucking guy said so. Drink. Also, dude, no shit, that's the only part that is left. You're like, the old part is this big flat area. Yeah, because the people who built things on it later cleared off whatever the fuck was up there before to build their thing.
As evidence, researchers point to the gigantic megalithic stones incorporated into the foundation, each weighing between 800 to 1,200 tons, and perfectly fitted together.
Why would they need to construct something like this as a landing pad? Again, let's run with the fact, sure, they needed a place to land, fucking whatever. They've implied that they had levitation technology and that they have technology that was able to melt and fuse stone. So if you're a species that can travel through space, you come to Earth and you need a flat place to land for some fucking reason, you point the giant, stone melter at the ground, you fucking beam the hell out of it, it melts, naturally becomes a flat surface, and you land on it.
Some of the stones are of such magnitude that modern machinery is incapable of putting them there, but somehow our ancestors were able to do this.
Look, you are totally well within your rights to be impressed by the Baalbek stones and wonder how they were moved. But attributing it to aliens is a bunch of bullshit. You don't have to be doing that. You can just be impressed that it's really big. That's totally fine.
Some have suggested that this stone alone weighs in excess of 1,200 tons.
Giorgio.
How was it moved there? Because obviously it's situated on top of these stone rows that we can find down here, which means that this stone had to be lifted and then set on top of these stones down here.
I mean, he's totally right. It is like probably one of the most impressive things humans have ever done, almost bar none. It's fucking absolutely insane. So I agree with that. I'm not gonna attribute it to fucking aliens or lost advanced technology. It's just proof to me that ancient people were so much more capable than we give them credit for.
It is one of the oldest megalithic sites on the planet. And it has these huge stones laid out in a precise geometrical shape at a time when the prehistoric people who would have lived there, who would have gone to the Bekaa Valley in Lebanon, would have no concept of how to move stones of that nature.
Well, apparently they fucking did, because they are literally there. I could go to another culture that never moved a stone that big and said they had no concept of it, because they clearly didn't, because they didn't move them. But you are literally looking at the one group that most obviously had a concept of how to move a stone that big and saying that they didn't. That's crazy.
You know, it is awesome that we now have over 250 episodes of Ancient Aliens.
You know what, George? I agree. It is awesome that you have over 250 episodes of Ancient Aliens. Awesome is the word I would use to describe that.
And what's also cool is that a lot of these sites that we've featured are megalithic places that most people haven't even heard about beforehand.
And they're not all ancient either.
Isn't it amazing that we have 250 episodes of Ancient Aliens where we go to sites that most people have never learned about and we poison their minds by telling them they were built by aliens? We are honestly some of the best people ever.
One of my favorite or most fascinating megalithic sites is Coral Castle in Florida, and it was built in the 1920s.
And it was just done by one person.
Coral Castle exists. You can visit it to this day. So it's possible we have this megalithic site in Florida that was built with an extraterrestrial technology.
I'm sorry, what? This one is new to me. This one is new to me. But if we have a megalithic site that was built in the 1900s with alien technology, you'd think we might have a little more fucking evidence for it. But I don't know. Let's see.
A stone garden made of sculpted blocks of ancient coral, some weighing 30 tons. It's called the Coral Castle.
Coral Castle in Florida is often said to be the only modern megalithic structure ever built.
Who says that? I'm learning that Childress just fucking says random shit. He's the one that's probably the most guilty of the I think, therefore it is. But I would say that it's definitely not the only modern megalithic structure. I mean, we still, like, it's not as common as it was, but like, I would say that fucking, I'm gonna go Mount Rushmore again. That would be a megalithic structure. I could go the Washington Monument or the Lincoln Memorial. Those are both megalithic structures that are modern. Yeah, they weren't built in the 1900s, sure, but like, we still build this shit, dude.
In 1923, Ed Leedskalnin, a Latvian immigrant, began building what he originally called Rockgate Park. But believe it or not, Leedskalnin insisted that he was not using modern machinery to build the impressive structure. He also claimed that he was working alone.
Well, Ed was a hermit, and Ed was a loner, and he was a foreigner, and he was a recluse.
Guys, he said that he was working alone and that he wasn't using modern technology, so it must be true.
He was in love with a woman, and he wanted to build this facility in memory of her, and he waited for her to come from Europe. And he waited, and he waited, and she never did. But the big question is how did this frail little man move these thousands of pounds of block?
It's the fucking radio host guy. I cannot believe Oh, Jesus Christ. He hasn't made an appearance for this entire watch session. And the first time he does, he's like, how did this fucking pussy-ass bitch move these big-ass rocks?
By himself.
Barely over 5 feet tall and weighing just 100 pounds.
This lame little manlet, how could he have done something so impressive?
Leet Skolnin is said to have carved, moved, and hoisted huge multi-ton stones using only a makeshift tripod.
He has a tripod.
There are videos of people doing that now. There's a guy on fucking YouTube that moves like enormous stones using like fucking gravity and ropes and shit. Oh my God, these people are like, he didn't let anyone watch him work and therefore it must have been aliens. Isn't it weird how the only evidence we have of this lost advanced technology is the one time no one let them watch them do it? Huh, amazing.
3 pieces of Florida pine, and he's got some chains, and he's now gonna lift 30 tons, 10 tons of rock. Can't be done. No one could do that.
He would work at night.
You are literally talking about a guy that did exactly that. This is like that whole thing with the Baalbek stone of being like, these people couldn't have moved the Baalbek stone. It's like, they're the only people that did move the Baalbek stone, you fucking moron.
He wouldn't let anybody watch him. And he said that he knew the secrets of the pyramids.
Dude. Autism. Autism. My man wanted to have his peace and quiet, and his special interest was building a fucking castle out of coral blocks, all right? And he was really good at it, and he figured out how to use fucking 3 giant branches and chains to lift up a fucking coral block and put it on top of another coral block. How is that? Oh my God. I think the world has been set back fucking millennia by people thinking that autism was just invented in like, 2005.
Had he rediscovered the same advanced technology used to build megalithic structures like Karnak and Sacsayhuaman?
Actually, yeah, you know what? I would imagine he probably did have access to the same technology they used to build that, and it wasn't alien technology. He was just a really fucking smart guy who figured out how to work smarter, not harder. So by virtue of that, yeah, he absolutely did have access to the same technology.
Leet Skolnin continued work on the Coral Castle until his death in 1951. In the journals he left behind, the builder explained that he had discovered the ancient secret of transforming stones into weightless objects.
Ed says this in his pamphlet, Magnetic Current, that real gravity is actually real magnets. So if you reverse the magnet forces with a force of some kind of electromagnetic, radio perhaps, frequency, you can then make these rocks not as heavy.
Why don't they show the actual excerpt from his journal? Because that could very easily just be interpreted as he figured out how to build a tripod out of fucking sticks like they said he did and use the weight of a block and some fucking leverage and shit to lift it up. The magnet thing, who fucking knows about the magnet thing? But why don't they show us what he actually wrote instead of telling us? Because I can't believe a word that comes out of their mouths because they just bullshit so often.
Some suggest the answer lies in a mysterious black box that can be seen in various photographs. A box that has since disappeared.
Oh my God. Now the black box, I don't know what the black box is. It very well might be fucking alien tech. But I'm gonna use an educated guess here and say that the black box that is very obviously going over the tops of the 3 fucking sticks is to keep water from getting into the fucking lumber in the rainy environment of Florida. You goddamn, oh my God. It's just a box, bro. Jesus. It is insane that they are looking at an image of him using a tripod and chain pulley leverage system, very obviously lifting the stones. And the thing they're talking about is the fucking black box on the top.
He had some kind of magnetic machine down in one of his other house areas that has since been dismantled, but it had a revolving ability. He may have been having that thing spin. The whole place could have been anti-gravity.
He had a magnetic machine. It's been dismantled and doesn't exist, but you're gonna just have to take my word for it because I fucking think so.
We can only surmise that due to the way this thing is made, it had a coil over here, and you have these magnets all the way around it. So as the magnets go by, you will induce a voltage on the coil.
This was an old world machine designed before World War I near Germany in the Baltic region. This simple DC machine ran off multiple car batteries tied in electrical parallel.
Probably just pushed these into place.
If he could push them into place, he would have built something bigger. That's pretty impressive what he built, but this is one guy we're talking about who was very intelligent and built something really amazing. But how the fuck, if you could make everything weightless, I would just make like the tallest stack of rocks imaginable.
The fact that one guy created these massive structures, it is absolutely fascinating. Am I suggesting that he did this with extraterrestrial technology? No, because I don't know. Am I excluding that possibility? No.
Yo, George, don't start bringing in the plausible deniability now, all right? You can say it. You can say that it was extraterrestrial technology. You know, I'll drink for it, but you can say it. It's okay, I give you permission.
I think that extraterrestrials would not have left our solar system some thousands of years ago.
Eric! Oh, Eric, I'm sorry, man. I just finished my drink, but I'll drink some water for you. Pour one out, my friend. Good to see you here.
Without any proof. They wanted that in the far future we start to reflect. Have you been visited by outer space?
Worldwide, on every continent, the most ancient of structures all essentially feature the same type of masonry or stonework. And you can't just attribute this to coincidence. Either our ancestors all went to the same school, or they were visited by the same teachers.
What do you mean, the same stonework? Because you just showed carved stone blocks that look like the big letter H, and now you're showing columnar basalts that were naturally shaped like that, stacked like this. They are about as different as stone can possibly be. Do you mean that they all moved stone? Because no shit. That's the commonality between all the sites, the megalithic sites. That's why it's called megaliths. Lithic is stone, but there's a lot of sites that didn't do that. The mound builders, again, built with earth because that was the resource they had a lot of. There is no commonality between these sites, no matter how much ancient aliens theorists want you to believe there is. They're like, oh, they're all pyramids. All the pyramids look different. They're all for different fucking purposes. And there's a lot of megaliths that aren't fucking pyramids.
The ubiquitous knowledge seems to be coming from either one source or a shared source that is influencing the whole globe.
Yes, the shared source that is influencing the whole globe is that they are all people that live on the same fucking planet, with the same fucking resources, with the same properties. Everyone lives around stone, and they're gonna figure out how to stack it the hell up.
But now we're starting to develop as a more accurate picture of
that's
this
the end of the
megalithic
episode.
Civilization that was global, that was highly advanced, intelligent, probably working with extraterrestrials, and now we're beginning to learn the truth.
Whoa, that was really bad, guys. I'm gonna be honest. I knew that Ancient Aliens was rough, but I honestly, that was worse than I was expecting. Couple takeaways, that was a lot of fun. I still think that Georgios Tsoukalos is probably one of my favorite people on the planet, and I would give one of my arms to actually sit down in the same room with him and share Fat fucking J. I never want to do this again. That's another point. And lastly, I'm rolling right now, and it is dark, and I'm going to go take a piss, and we're gonna synthesize all of this in once I am coherent again. Wow, that was awful. That was really awful. I don't know what I was expecting, but honestly, it was worse than I was expecting. I felt a little bad going into these videos, being like, is it bad of me to just sit down and like live react? Like, am I doing a disservice by not like doing enough research beforehand to have like a really crystallized position on these points? And then as I was watching it, I was like, oh no, I honestly could come into this completely blind and shit-faced drunk and still be able to do what I do best. So no, I'm honestly glad I didn't dedicate more time to it because it didn't need any more time. If you want me to do something like this again in the future, let me know. I'd have to really think on it, or I'd have to pull someone else in on a collab. But God knows I have bigger Atlantis-shaped fish to fry. I made a promise and now I have to keep it, okay? I better see you at the episode of Uncut Vermont, April Fool's video, April 1st. It's gonna happen. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank you all very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, I'd greatly appreciate if you could leave a like, a share, a comment, whatever floats your suit. Ad revenue is the thing that keeps this channel going and allows these videos to exist here for free for you on YouTube. Interactions like likes, shares, and comments helps promote this video in the algorithm and gives myself and the team the ad revenue that we need to keep making these videos for free for you. Like I always say, leaving an interaction is like tipping the bellhop. It doesn't cost you a cent and it helps us continue doing what we do here. I'd also like to give a little hello to everyone watching at the live premiere. Hi guys, every other Sunday, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And of course, I'd like to give a massive thank you to my editorial team. You may not see their faces, but each one of these videos is the product of hundreds of hours of work from a team of almost 10 people. They are the beating heart of this channel, and without them, simply put, these videos would not exist. So please join me in giving them a big thank you. And lastly, if you want to support the channel directly, head on down to the shop. Grab some of this cool stuff. All of our merch is made with love and part of my commitment to put good things out into the world. I know money is a tough thing in the world right now, and so my team and I are very grateful for all of your purchases. It helps us immensely to continue doing what we do here, and I hope that this can brighten up your life a little bit, decorate one of your walls, means the world to us, and you can rest easy knowing that you are part of the reason that this continues happening. Link to this, stickers, and a bunch of other fun stuff is in the description of this video. Go check it out. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank you all very much for watching. My name is Milo Rossi. Remember to stay curious, stay inquisitive, and most importantly, I'm trying to think of something. I can't stop thinking about that door hinge. That fucking door hinge. How are you gonna be like, do you see this gap? Did you know that if I made a door hinge to fit in this gap, there'd be a door hinge there? What the fuck is that about? Oh my God. Oh, the sludge. The sludge has spoken. Surface accuracy is the measurement of the deviation between the actual shape of the intended shape and what? By the time I started the second part of the series, the aliens were trying to silence me. I want to get fucking hammered. I want to get slammered on a Thursday.
Hey, it's Friday Junior.
Friday Junior, 3:45, okay? Let's see, here we go. Yeah, exactly. Back in my day, I used to get plastered at frat parties on Wednesdays. Now, I get shit-faced, yeah, 3 years ago. Now I get shit-faced in my living room watching Ancient Aliens on Thursdays. How the mighty fall. Yeah, probably. Hands. Got one word. Bell. It's under the sauce.
Give love a bad name. Whoa, 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 whoa. You give love a bad name.
Autofocus? That's fucking sick, bro. Check that out. Yeah, I'm awesome. All right, wow, that, oh God, I have to piss like a fucking racehorse. All right, where were we? Nope, we do not need to start this episode from the beginning. That would be fucking horrible.